Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I'm here with an absolute stud, Adin Aggarwal from Fast.
I love movies. I see maybe in the cinemas 40 movies a year.
Let's go into top 5 movies of all time.
I made a website in first year after the F1 2021 championship. I wrote articles about F1 car reviews. It's always something I've loved. Betting is one of those things where it's not that hard. I'm really interested in the human body. It is the most fascinating thing in this universe.
I want to know your opinion on evolution because you're also a man of faith. These things tend to collide for a lot of people in the world.
I think the Canadian medical system's better. It does have its shortcomings. There's no doubt about it, but the fact that it's free makes a huge difference.
Going to war, are you fighting for your country or are you fighting for the leaders?
Ooh.
That's another interesting point.
Yeah. Whenever I go traveling, I'm very proud to say that I'm Canadian, and people kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit. They aren't expecting it. There's only 35 million of us, right? We're kind of rare. Yeah. The media, it wants to see people fail. Every single media organization in the world, it has some kind of agenda. They used to try and hide it. Now they're shameless about it. Now they will say, yeah, we need this to happen in order to win the election. Like, where's the we coming from?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I'm here with an absolute stud, all-around legend. Actually, the first guy I ever interacted with at Victoria College. My boy, Adin Aggarwal from Fast. What up?
Hey, Carter.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for all the hype, man.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Cool to be on here.
It's good to have you on. This is a long time coming.
Yeah.
We got you. We're getting Krishna's filmed in a few weeks. This is going to be a nice chill episode. All right. It's not very interview style. Me and Aden have known each other for almost 3 years. Yeah. And we'll just relax, talk about a bit. I wanted to start off asking you about your movie obsession.
Okay, sure, yeah.
I made my list last night, my top 5.
Ooh.
And before I ask you for your top 5, I want you to kind of dive deep and explain how you might be the biggest movie fanatic at UofT.
All right. So yeah, I love movies. I think they're one of the things I live for, really.
Yeah.
I see maybe in the cinemas about 40 movies a year.
40 movies a year.
Yeah, 40 movies. Go there. I love the popcorn. Everything about the experience is really the best for me.
Yeah.
And then every day, probably every 2 days, I'd say, I watch a movie on Netflix or one of the streaming sites as well.
Respect.
So it's just really my favorite form of entertainment. Great way to relax, yeah.
Did you start out like right when you were young? Was this like a son and dad thing that you would go to the movies as a kid and now it's just kind of remained a tradition?
I think my dad's always been a movie buff, but he never took me to got me into it until I was 11 maybe. And then we really started going basically 40 times a year. We still go together.
Nice.
I was actually afraid of movies for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because of Toy Story 3.
Yeah, Toy Story, that's everyone's worst nightmare.
Movie terrified me. The pink bear and the monkey. Oh, God. Still gives me the creeps.
That's fair. But let's go into top 5 movies of all time. I'm sure you have your list.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to go first?
Off the top of your head. No, let's get you first because you probably have the more valid,
okay.
I guess,
I don't know if it's valid. I got a very, I love action movies.
Fair.
That's mainly what I go for.
Yep.
I can't go in any particular order, but just top 5
just
in
regular
general.
top 5.
I'd say The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, one of his Batman movies. It's the second one in the trilogy with Christian Bale. It is really good. I think it's the perfect movie. There's not a single piece of the plot that isn't moving at all times. And Heath Ledger as Joker is fantastic. I think he's one of the best villains of all time.
This is the one where they blow up the hospital?
Yeah, it's that one.
That was good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that, I'd probably say Casino Royale, which is a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
It's the first one with Daniel Craig.
I've never actually seen any of the James Bond movies.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad.
To be fair, I haven't seen very many aside from the recent ones.
Okay.
Because the old ones are kind of gimmicky. It's like they get a bunch of terrorists lining up in front of a building.
Yeah.
And then there happens to be a barrel of oil behind them that he shoots and they all blow up. And it's too unrealistic
What are
for
the
me.
odds?
Now they've become more grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good, that movie. I'd say Top Gun Maverick.
Yep.
I thought that was one of the perfect movies for the summer of 2022.
Yep.
Really brought people back into the theaters. Tom Cruise, I think he's still the best superstar in cinema.
Is he your bromance crush, Tom Cruise? Because most dudes say Ryan Reynolds, but I feel like you're saying Tom Cruise.
I'd go for Tom Cruise. Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah, he's a legend. And another movie of his in my top 5 would probably be Mission Impossible, Fallout, the 6th one.
6th one.
And for the 5th movie, I'd probably go for Forrest Gump. I think it's just a beautiful movie.
Classic.
Yeah, really like it.
All-time classic.
Yeah.
Great top 5.
Thanks.
I wonder if, like, do you mainly watch movies that are going to be in theaters? Because a lot of the movies don't even make it to theaters. How do you even access those movies? Like, I wonder if people listening would know all 5 of those movies that you've just listed off.
Well, yeah, those 5 those 5 are just the blockbusters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really watch any indie movies. It's just the blockbusters, big names.
100%. Christian showed us this weird short film YouTube channel that posts like 20-minute movies.
Oh, minute movies.
Yeah. Well, no, it's called Omeletto.
Omeletto. Okay, it's similar. Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
You know about it? It was. I don't even know how to describe it, but that's like also a type of. I don't even know. You can't compare that. It's not the same category.
Is it like the weird, like sci-fi?
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Yeah, it's about time travel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're interesting to watch, but they're not by no means. Like, I think it's a very good, cool way to watch movies for free.
Yeah.
To enjoy, like, the production quality is really good for something that's completely free.
Yeah.
But movies themselves, I think they're a great deal. You know, people complain that the prices have gone up for concessions at the movie theater, but you know what? I think in like 20 years or something, movie theaters aren't going to be very big at all. It's already a struggling industry.
Yeah.
Because of streaming, a lot of movies are coming right away out onto streaming, which was never a thing. And just enjoy it while it lasts. I'd say, like, you can't be hard on them for jacking up the prices because it's the only way they make their money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad to think about. Do you think that the budget of a movie can determine usually the success of the movie?
Usually it does, because it's the names that bring in. It's the actors, and the budget, a lot of it goes to just paying the actors.
Got it.
But there are some big budget flops. Some of the recent Marvel movies, like, they're not. Marvel has fallen off so hard.
I agree.
It has fallen off a cliff.
I completely agree.
Like,
Ever
after
since
Endgame, I'd say.
Endgame, yeah.
They killed the 2 best superheroes, Captain America and Iron Man.
Yeah.
And ever since then, they've
they had the Spider-Man one.
Yeah, the Spider-Man ones are good.
That one was good.
That franchise is still doing really good.
Yeah.
But everything else is completely,
It's dust. I agree. I have to agree. Politics, but I think that's what really sunk them, because it's just Hollywood people trying to push messages. But that's life. Top 5 for me.
Yeah.
If I had to say. Number 1 movie of all time, which is ridiculous, but it is hilarious, is Anchorman 2.
Have you seen it?
Ever seen it? It is the funniest movie. That movie probably single-handedly shaped my entire sense of humor. It is so funny. It is so funny. Anytime I watch it with a friend or anybody, they just see, okay, this is all your jokes. This is how you get them. So you're not really unique at all. This is what they say, but it was huge. It's so funny. That's Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd. Steve Carell's in that. Yeah. Good movie.
So why 2 and not 1? Because usually the sequel's worse. Yeah.
I agree. The first one of any movie franchise is usually the best. I watched the second one before I watched I think the first one came out when I was like 2. So I didn't see it. The second one, though, was in theaters when I was still pretty young, to be honest. But I went to see it with my family, and it was hilarious. I think I must have been like 10. So that kind of humor for a 10-year-old kid was incredible. But yes, that's number 1. 12 Years a Slave. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Another one you haven't seen. Very good. Cinematics, amazing. It was very historically, I didn't live in the 1800s, but it felt very historically accurate.
Yeah.
And it's just a great story overall. Lion. Have you seen the movie Lion?
No. Oh, yeah. Yes, I have.
You have seen that?
What's the guy's name? Patel?
I forget his name.
The guy who gets lost.
Yeah, he went missing.
I have.
Yeah, he lost his parents, all that. Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah.
That one's based on a true story.
Yeah.
12 Years a Slave is based on a true story.
Okay.
I think that's a huge. 3 of my top 5 are based on true stories, which is
these are really deep movies.
Well,
aside from
Anchorman. Anchorman's a little just comedic.
It's the deepest.
yeah, exactly. There's ways you could see it as like really, historic in certain ways, but no. I don't know. I like something about. I just realized that 3 of the top 5 are based on true stories.
Okay.
It's something about, like you said. I mean, not that James Bond isn't real, but like
Yeah.
you said, the tanks behind the terrorists.
Yeah.
Like it's something about knowing that this actually happened, which makes the story more impactful.
Yeah.
Number 4
Yeah.
would be a movie called Why Him?
Oh,
James
it's
Franco.
a rom-com kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay,
one's also funny. It's not based on a true story, but it's hilarious. Great humor. James Franco's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. He's one of my favorite actors. And then the last one, number 5, James Franco as well, also based on a true story, is 127 Hours.
Haven't seen that. Wait, what's it about?
It's a dude, it's a biker who gets stuck in between literally in between a rock and a hard place. And he gets his arm trapped between this boulder.
Is this
in
the
a
rock
mountain.
climber? Or
Yeah.
a rock,
I think it's a rock climber,
rock
sure.
climber, yeah.
Something like that. He was like going through the desert.
Oh, okay.
But based on a true story, and the stories of him being stuck in here for 127 hours, and he's running out of water while he's doing it. He's like dehydrated. He's going crazy in his head.
Shit.
And I'm not going to spoil the movie, but there's really only one way out for him, and it's kind of that battle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sick. Movies are awesome. Let's circle into Lap 'em Fast. I said at the very start, Adin Aggarwal from Lap 'em Fast. I probably should have started with that to explain kind of what that is. But it started in first year, didn't it? Technically, the website.
Yeah. Lap 'em Fast. Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren, Ferrari, Aston Martin. Just the acronym. Try to make it into something.
Yep.
Lap 'em Fast. Those are like the 5 supercar brands that I think are the pinnacle.
Yep.
And yeah, I started writing, I think after, I made a website in first year after the F1 2021 championship, which I thought was fantastic. And yeah, I wrote articles about F1 and car reviews.
Nice.
And because, it's always something I've loved. And yeah, now we're on to YouTube.
It's good.
Yeah.
So the transition has come a long way. I think that it's hard to stop someone when they have a passion for something like that. Because I used to do an Instagram hockey account. I must have had 900 posts.
That's big.
And like only 30 followers.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was the passion that was getting me through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a similar situation here with Laugh Fast. It's something you're already interested in.
Oh yeah.
But now you've moved on to the betting side of it.
Yeah.
So what got you there?
Because you know what? Betting is one of those things where it's hard, but at the same time, it's not that hard to once you figure out sort of how Vegas operates and thinks, you can get on a good streak.
Mm-hmm.
And in Formula One betting, there isn't a lot of people on YouTube doing it. So I bet on Formula One and I share my picks on YouTube, get views. Yep. And I'm hoping I can just, betting keeps people engaged. The season has been boring this year. Yep. It's been Red Bull dominance. And it's kind of been the way I stayed interested in the sport, and by sharing my picks with people, I'm hoping I can make them some money out of it too. Yeah.
That's good. What's your record right now?
Right now, since the summer break in Formula One, we're 16-5.
16-5.
Yeah. So it's about 500% of whatever money you put in for each bet.
Damn.
Yeah.
So anyone watching, Lap 'em Fast on YouTube, LAPMFAST.
Yeah.
Tail these bets. Actually, let's go into what do you think about like the dark side of gambling?
Oh, like addiction and stuff?
Yeah.
And like fixing matches and stuff?
Let's start with addiction. I wasn't actually thinking of fixing matches, but let's do the addiction.
Addiction. It's a problem. And I think there's a shady history behind it too, because there's like Vegas is in part culpable, I think.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example. In like the early 2000s, there was this guy, really rich businessman, sort of really grinded, self-made for the large part. Yeah. He was an Asian American guy, and he probably had like a couple $100 million in the bank, and he got depressed or something, and he started going to the casinos in Vegas, and he would spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And what Vegas would do is they'd give him entire bottles of vodka that he loved. Yeah. And he would be like pass out drunk all the time at the roulette table, and he'd still play. In Vegas, and people were concerned about this guy when they'd come in, like regular customers. They'd be like, who the hell is this guy? And Vegas said, oh no, you don't criticize this guy. They put him up in the penthouse at the, whatever the big name casino hotel is there. They let him stay there for free, as long as you keep playing in the casino. Jeez. And he went broke. He was something like 50% of the casino's entire profits for the year.
What?
Yeah.
When was this, sorry?
2007, I want to say.
That's insane.
It's dark, and yeah, and it's hard to regulate. It's one of those things that's like, he didn't win his lawsuit against the casino.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So it's one of those things that's very hard to regulate.
Yeah.
Hard to hold people accountable for it.
When people say gamble responsibly, because it's just recently been like legalized to do same game betting in Canada, right? Like it was like 5 years ago that this started or something. Like when people say gamble responsibly, I'm curious as to what you think when people say do anything responsibly. Does that normally mean that you probably shouldn't do it at all? Like, how do you feel about that side of it, where it's like, is gambling, like, even though it leads to this dark place, you know, the house always wins, is there a balance where you can still do it in a moderate way? This can happen with anything, with gambling, with drinking.
Yeah. This is a really good question. To do it responsibly? Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things where I would say you're not missing out by staying away.
Got it.
I would say by staying away, you've chosen to do the safe thing.
Yeah.
Anyone, I think, can fall victim to addiction, no matter how, like, sort of secure you think you are in the head. You just don't know where life events can lead you and how your environment can change around you and cause you to go down this path, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But if, like, look, you for gambling, what I do is I put my money in at the start of the season, or maybe at 2 points throughout the season. Yeah. And if I run out, I run out. I'm done. I'm not putting more in. I put maybe 250 in to start. Got it. And
for the season, yeah, that makes sense.
And if you run out, it's you were bad. You probably shouldn't be gambling.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair.
Yeah.
So
you got to exercise a lot of self-control. And the app has, like, Bet365 has stuff like loss limits and deposit limits that you can put on, but you can change those. Okay. You can change them. Like, it's not hard to get around that if you're determined. And, like, it says, please play responsibly, and it makes you confirm that you're not under the influence of alcohol. Anyone drunk can confirm. They can click that button.
They're just doing it because, it makes it look better.
Yeah,
that's pretty messed up. Is losing winnings really losing?
Yeah. Once you've made the money, it's your money.
So then is there a different? Yeah, I know. But if there's like a different way to kind of control yourself, let's say you start with 250 at the start of the season, you go 16-5, you go 160-5. Who knows? You win a bunch. Yeah. And you're like, it's okay. I only started with 250. Yeah. I can make these risky gambles still. It makes you feel like this really isn't my money. Do you think there's any substance to that? Or do you think that's an illusion?
Ooh, it's a powerful illusion, I think.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, like, if you took that money out, how would all that money, like, change your life, right? Yeah. Like what could it mean? Like, like investing and buying. I would say that, like, that's why we have units. So in betting, what you typically do is, say I put 250 in. Yeah. I divide my bankroll up into 10 units of $25. So throughout the entire season, then $25 is the most you can put on any single bet. So 1 unit.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're never betting more. Like, even if I get up to like $10,000 in my bet account because I keep winning, each bet can only be $25 still.
So but you control yourself in that way.
Yeah, that's what units are for. Yeah.
Got it. So where can people follow you? I said the YouTube, but there's other places.
So as Carter said, LAPM FAST on YouTube and on Instagram. As well, we have UofT Formula 1 Club on Instagram, which is not about gambling. It's just about the love of Formula 1. Yeah. And, hey, do you ever feel like at clubs at UofT, they're kind of getting, like, every club is sort of tied to an organization. They all feel too serious.
100%.
It's like, it's always trying to, like, it's like always, like, pushing some kind of agenda, or there's some kind of ulterior motive, or just like a smaller version of a company.
A little suspicious.
Yeah. So I just wanted a chill club. I feel like there's not a lot of chill clubs that exist where people just with the same interest. Like, is there an NHL talk club?
No.
Like,
nothing.
You should make one.
It's a good point.
There's tons of people who love NHL here.
Yeah.
And I figured it's the same thing with Formula 1. I just want A club where people can come and talk about Formula One whenever they want. Maybe watch some qualifying races. Yeah, it's a very want to get a nice community together because there's a lot of people complain, UFT. It's hard to meet people in class and yada yada yada. But just go make friends in F1 Club.
That's awesome. Respect. Yeah. No ulterior motives with F1.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of people that love cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Why the fuck is F1 so successful when it's the best car wins?
It's a good question. I feel like it's the show for a lot of people.
Fair.
The Netflix show.
Oh, yeah.
Drive to Survive. Drive to Survive. They really hit a home run with that show.
I gotta watch it.
Nobody watched F1 before then.
No.
Like, it was such a very niche European sport.
Yeah.
Now it's become more mainstream. I don't watch it because of the show, because I like cars. That's why I watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the best car always wins, I can definitely see why people, because that is literally the case. There's no sugarcoating it. You could have the best driver in the world. If they're in the second best car, they're not going to be able to win races.
That's fair.
Like, it'll be very hard for them. Yeah.
What kind of qualities does it take to be an F1 driver? From what you've watched,
Yeah.
not only like you have to be a certain physique, I think. I
Uh-huh.
think you can't be too tall.
Yeah.
Can't be too heavy.
Uh-huh.
What like personal qualities do you see with some of these racers? Are they usually like the sons of billionaires?
Yeah,
What's going on?
Be born rich. Be
Born
a trust
rich,
fund baby.
yeah.
There you go.
That's fair.
There's a couple who weren't.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Räikkönen, and oddly enough, they tend to be really good because they really have to work.
Yeah.
The teams only hire them at a young age if they see really true talent in them. But there are some who are also born wealthy, like Max Verstappen. His dad was an F1 driver who also become really good. But Max Verstappen's dad was like, he drilled it into Max's head he programmed him from day one to be an F1. He's living vicariously through his son.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like kind of, do you think that that's a good thing for a dad to do?
I mean, if your kid ends up like Max Verstappen.
Exactly, right? I was thinking that.
It causes a lot of emotional hardship on the way Max Verstappen talks about it. Like,
really?
Yeah, like his dad, like when he was like 7 years old, makes him walk home from races if he loses and stuff like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, because I always say I want my kid to be in the NHL.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to be a bitter, angry person, mad at the world.
Yeah.
Would you not that it'd be F1. What would you want for your son? Would you want him to become? Well, we'll talk more about your school, your science, some of the stuff you're doing a little bit. But is that something that you'd approach
to get him into sport?
Yeah. Like, did your dad try to push you towards anything?
He did. He wasn't pushy, no, but he definitely encouraged it. Yeah. I think sports are very important for almost every kid should be involved in sport. Yeah. Especially in the early years because it teaches stuff that you don't learn in school. It teaches teamwork. It teaches commitment. Yeah. You show up for practice early. You don't complain. The coach yells at you. Yeah, well, get used to getting yelled at. I think it's an important part of life.
True.
In school, when you're in grade 4, realistically, nobody cares what you're doing. But in sports, they do care still.
True. That's a good point.
Yeah. I
feel like that's going away. I feel like there's a lot of complaining at the coach. If you yell at my kid a little too much, I'm gonna, you're gonna get fucking fined. It happened on my brother's team. Yeah. I won't say too many details or names, but it did happen where one of the kids' parents, complained about the coach, and the coach got CPS called on him.
What's CPS?
Child Protective Services. Oh, because he was I think he swore in the dressing room or called some kid something. Super nice guy, by the way. Great dude. The whole team loved him. There was this one kid's parent who had an issue, and it turned into this whole legal problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is messed up.
It's not the same as it used to be.
No, not at all. All right. Quick pause. Yeah. Camera break. You had a nice summer position in the scientific field of diseases, something like that. I'm miswording it for sure. What can you tell me about that?
It does make you put more effort into your work when you think, someone who's having a really hard time, who's really worried for their family or for, themselves. They come to this website and they want help. You'd better damn well be able to give it to them and give it to them in a really reliable way. Yeah. So, it really made me bring my 100% effort. Yeah.
A game.
Yeah.
I think that that's a big struggle, at least that not that I've had, but that I used to have, and I think a lot of people have, is that they feel like the work they're doing isn't actually making a positive impact on the world at all. They're just doing it for the paycheck.
Yeah.
So you are looking to go to med school after this, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that factor of actually wanting to change the world, does that motivate you? Is it the big paycheck?
Ooh.
What is it?
That's a good question, and I should probably think of an answer before I get to the med school interview.
Right.
So this is a good practice.
Yeah.
For me, I think it can't be the paycheck, because if you're to being a doctor for the money, you're in the wrong field. Right. Because if we're being realistic, it's so much debt.
Yeah.
There's some crazy statistic like a plumber. If you start being a plumber at the age of 20, and you go through the doctor path, by the age of 39 or something, that's only the point where the doctor has a net worth higher than the plumber.
Jeez.
Yeah.
39, yeah.
39. So because the plumber takes on almost no debt.
Yeah.
Doctor, in the States, you're looking at almost $500,000 of debt.
Jeez.
Here, it's a lot less. It's maybe 150.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, I'm really interested in the human body. Yeah. I think it is one of the most fascinating. It is the most fascinating thing in this universe. It is incredibly, incredibly beautiful the way it works. Yeah. Like, it's just this perfect ballet of like chemicals and and to be able to study it for my whole life and sort of figure out the meanings of life. Yeah. And explain it, and then be able to see how our learnings about that can be used to help people is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've known you for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I know you're in life science. I don't know exactly what you study, though.
I mean, all the life science majors are pretty much the same at the end of the day.
Fair.
There's like 50 of them, and I don't even know the differences. Like, we're all the same courses most of the time. Yeah.
Is it immunology?
Human biology. Immunology is a minor. Yeah.
Close.
Okay. Potato,
Yeah. Human biology.
Yeah.
I want to know your opinion on evolution, because you're also a man of faith.
Yes, yeah.
These things tend to collide for a lot of people in the world.
Yeah.
So where do your thoughts on this come in?
Yeah. So I believe in evolution. Yeah. Like, the evidence is concrete. Yeah. If anything, I think it is one of the most complex theories or world-changing theories that we have the best evidence for. Yeah. It's truly miraculous, I think, the jump Darwin made. Yeah. To no one believing in evolution at all, it being completely non-existent, to him actually being able to prove it, and then it led to genetics and all this stuff.
In a pretty short time span, too. It was like under 200 years.
And if you think how much our understanding of genetics has changed medicine and everything, it's crazy in such a short time. People underestimate how big of a technological leap has been made in medicine. So yeah, 100% believe in evolution, but I don't think that doesn't mean you can't believe in God. People look at those things as mutually exclusive. I see no reason why one can't exist in the coexist with the other.
I completely agree. That is exactly my position. I believe in evolution 100%. I read, Kat gave me the bio book that you guys had to read in first year for my 120 course this year.
Oh, did you read it again? Your class did it, yeah?
Well, I thought that we were supposed to, so I read the whole thing before the course started, then we got the syllabus, and it wasn't a required reading.
Oh, that's a really good book, though.
It was. I still read it. It was really good. And that's the thing. That's why it's so interesting, because it's very clear that evolution is fact. It's very clear. And once again, I will leave people to their opinions, but I truly 100% am on your side when I say that evolution is true. It has to be true. There's so much evidence. Yeah. There's so much evidence. But you're right. It does not disprove God. I don't think that it might disprove some of the stories of the Bible, sure. Or maybe some of the interpretations people thought that there was a man in the sky who perfectly created this world. And those stories might still have some validity in the way that they're interpreted, but not necessarily in that physical sense. Yeah. But the idea of God, I don't think evolution disproves that at all. Yeah. I see God as beginning, like, kind of where when time began. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's hard to talk about, but I see it more of like a physics problem, not as a biology problem. You know what I mean? I was talking to Dikshan, and he was like trying to give me this explanation of how, like, there's vacuums and particles can enter into existence. I'm like, this makes no fucking sense. God has to start something. You can't get zero. He's even the vacuum. He's like, if there's a vacuum, how did the vacuum get there?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Something had to do
it.
it.
It really doesn't. I cannot wrap my head around it.
No, it has to be some sort of supernatural force. I think that people are trying to explain the origin of the universe with logic, when I think, like, my belief in God is very scientific, actually.
Really?
It's very logical. You can't create something out of zero. It's scientifically impossible.
But like, what created God then?
That's the same question. But that's
really,
why you can argue. You don't need to I don't think that you need reason to justify what created God, because the belief in God is not logical. Yeah. Believing in God is not a logical thing. It's faith. It's a completely different route to get to God than it is to get to science, right?
Yeah.
I know that sounds stupid.
Yeah, you know I know what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think everyone can have their own connection with God. Like, I don't think it has to be through the church or anything.
Right.
I think it can just be through nature, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And it's hard to wrap your head around it originally, because, like, when you say God, people think of this man in the sky kind of controlling things. But I don't see it as that. I see it really more as like a force of why do we do the things we do?
Interesting.
How did we get here?
Yeah.
But evolution is complete facts. I completely agree.
Yeah.
You, as you were talking about, you wanted to do med school.
Yeah.
But you told me before that there is a chance that you might try your hand at business.
Yeah.
That you might, like, if you were to take a year, once again, I don't know if that was serious or not serious, but just an idea to test your hand going into entrepreneurship, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you already tried with Amazon FBA. Krishna reminded me of that story.
Very short-lived. The $300 in the whole Amazon FBA.
Yeah. But what interests you in business overall?
I think it's the accessibility of it.
Yeah.
You literally don't need any money to start these days.
True. I think that's a huge misconception.
You can open a online account with GoDaddy or whatever you need for $25, right?
Yeah.
It's really nothing.
I completely agree.
But you know what I've learned is that if people are making YouTube videos telling you this is a way to make money, it means that it no longer is a viable way of making money. And the last way for them to exploit it, like they may have hopped onto it early, is by making YouTube videos and getting the ad revenue off it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be telling you about it.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. When I see a YouTube video that says, do this right now if you're a broke student with 5 million views, I'm like, well, this isn't going to fucking work anymore.
Do this 10 years ago. You would have been good.
yeah, exactly. That's true. No, but I really want to go into entrepreneurship because, as I was saying with Christian before, is that I feel like it's the only lifestyle to truly kind of keep your freedom the whole way out, to not be beholden by any sort of anyone else's schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an overstatement. Do you think that, like, because you're going to go into being a doctor, that's a very rigorous schedule.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'll be okay with that because you're signing up for it? Do you think that you can cope with it knowing that I just need to be here at this time. I need to, put in the hours. I need to be here for the team, for the health of humanity.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you're going to be okay with? Like, because it's a lot of hours, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's self-inflicted, right? I signed up for it. I was willing to take on, for the sake of pursuing science. And, this is what you have to do because there's too few doctors and we need them to work long hours.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for someone who values their freedom a lot, business makes a lot of sense. Right. Because, like you said, there is no other, aside from working, just being in control of your own schedule, being like a CEO or whatever. It's the only way in any kind of industry that you're going to be able to dictate when you wake up, when you go to sleep, how much time you have with your family, that kind of stuff. Other than that, it's always going to be someone else doing that.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think that, it's either become a super rich businessman or become a homeless person. Because, no, it's true, though. Think about it. You could either, if you're super poor, you could go live on the beach or on the street. No one's bugging you for anything. You don't have bills because you don't have anything.
Okay.
And, people really can't come at you. They can't come to take your stuff because you don't have shit.
I mean, the other people who are impoverished could come take your stuff.
Like the other homeless people?
Yeah.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah. But my explanation was that I think that the hardest, maybe not the hardest, but some of the most restricting and less free lives lie in the middle. People that are not flat broke, but people that are not completely rich either. Because you still have just enough to need to show up to work to pay those bills, but you don't have enough to not show up and skip a day.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I'm not advocating for homelessness, right?
Yeah, of course. But, so I think, I think in order to be comfortable in the way the world is structured, so like, as you said, like sort of having the middle, like a middle management, I guess, or maybe like what sort of like white collar job, you have to sacrifice a little bit of freedom in order to be able to join sort of that environment that gives you the comfort of, being able to live a certain lifestyle. Right. But yeah, it goes both ways. Freedom goes both ways, right? You can either be at the top of it and have it all, or you can be at the bottom where nobody's looking to, no one's looking to hurt you.
You have all your freedom, but you have nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess your freedom has a price.
Yeah, freedom does have a price.
It's interesting. Are you going to be a doctor in Canada or the U.S.?
Canada, I think.
Canada.
Because you know what, these are, especially if I go to med school in Canada, definitely Canada, because this is the government that paid to train me, and these are the people that I've grown up around, and I owe it to serve, I think, especially if it's Canadian med school, because it's so heavily government subsidized. Yeah. That's the right thing to do, I think. Yeah.
It's a moral decision then.
Yeah.
I feel like most people wouldn't make that decision. What do you think about like that comparison? Like the Canadian medical system versus the U.S.?
I think the Canadian medical system's better. It does have its shortcomings. There's no doubt about it, but the fact that it's free makes a huge difference. Yeah. I don't know a lot about the American system, but I think Canada, the main problem with Canada is the wait time. Yeah. And that's a staffing issue, but that comes down to money too. It's the government doesn't want to hire more doctors because you have to pay for them. And I'm sure there's a reason behind that. Hiring people would result in cutbacks in some other area, some other service provided by the government. But yeah, that's why we have the long wait times. Like you can't get a family doctor for a lot of people. It's a 6-year waiting list or something in some parts of the country.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that, once again, I also don't know very much the details, the intricacies of either system. But I think that there is definitely a moral problem when you have the ability to cure someone's disease and because of finance you refuse to do it, especially someone of your own country. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that would be a point for the Canadian system. Yeah. 100%. But then also, as you said, there's another moral issue. I'm actually very impressed that you said you would stay in Canada, because it would make sense naturally that there's an incentive for Canadian educated doctors to go to the States to make more money. Yeah. So there's that problem with it too. Like the people you talk to that are like trying to go on the same path as you, like, do you ever have that conversation? Oh, like have you heard of people kind of give the reason for the other side?
No, there are people who I've talked to who want to go to the States. Yeah. And for them, the way they look at it is there's sick people everywhere and all human life is equal. So it doesn't matter in their opinion whether they're Canadian or American, they're still helping people. Interesting. But for me, it's the training thing. Canada trained me, they're going to get me, right?
That's completely fair. I think there's a huge question mark to be raised about patriotism nowadays. I think there's a big push towards globalism, and there's some backing to both ideas, like human life is equal no matter what country you're a part of. But I think that there's a certain sort of pride and importance that comes with kind of affiliating with the country that raised you, that you grew up in. Absolutely. And the issue for me is that, like, yes, people feel like they've been neglected, but even then, from what I've seen, like people who protest Trudeau, I find it very interesting that people that protest Trudeau will do so with a Canadian flag.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They're not anti-Canada.
No, absolutely not. I mean? Yeah.
And I'm not anti-Canada, despite how I feel about the leader of the country, whether it's Trudeau or anybody else. I am pro-Canada all the time. You know what I mean? I will never I will never lose pride in my country because who's running it. Sure, maybe I don't like the leader. You don't need to like the leader.
Yeah, you don't need to at all. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you should stray away from the country itself. You know what I mean? You should always be proud of your nation, because you have to. This is how you get people to fight. Why would you go to war for a country that could be fucking you over? I guess there's another question to be asked about. Is going to war, are you fighting for your country, or are you fighting for the leaders?
Ooh.
That's another interesting point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It really depends on where the war is, I think.
That's what it is, because how do you even know that this war is worth fighting?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bullshit wars that take place.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah.
That a bad leader might initiate. How do you fix that? How do you fix that issue? Because I mean, I might be backtracking here, but I guess if you don't have faith, if you think that the people at the top are making dumb decisions, that might make you more reluctant to die for that country. You don't feel like you're dying for the country. You think it's a stupid reason.
Oh, I mean, then this was the problem with Vietnam and America.
Exactly.
Right? Because they didn't think that they needed to be. It's not like World War II, where there was a clear national interest in which they needed to fight in Europe, and they need to fight the Japanese after being attacked.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, this was a war out of foreign spheres of influence, and that's why they were really upset about the draft in particular. Yeah. To be drafted, think about that, being drafted into a war, like on the other side of the world against a country that's never going to be a threat to your homeland. It's a very tough thing to wrap your head around.
I agree.
And at a young age, too, to be thrown into a very terrifying battlefield.
Guys
crazy.
Younger than us.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it totally depends on it completely depends on where the war is, I think.
That's scary.
But for me, I'd say the origins of my patriotism are the people. So definitely, like, I look at Canadian people, the 38 million people, as a group of people who are very polite, as much as we're stereotyped about it. I think, we're the people who, I guess, have kind of a weird accent sometimes. Yeah. Whenever I go traveling, I'm very proud to say that I'm Canadian, because people will assume I'm American just because, like, we kind of come from that part of the world, and there's a lot of tourists from that. Like, no, I'm very proud when I say I'm Canadian, and people kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit. They aren't expecting it. There's only 35 million of us, right? We're kind of rare.
That's true.
It's a really nice thing to be able to say.
There's more people in California than there is in Canada.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, you need pride in your country. That's like, this is why people hate taxes. I feel like there wasn't as big of a problem with taxes when you actually trusted that the taxes were going to do amazing things for you. Yeah. Now you pay taxes, you don't even know.
You don't know where it's going. Yeah.
It could be going to a different country. That's the point. it could be fucking leaving, going to fund something else. Yeah. Fund a war.
I mean, there needs to be a lot of transparency. It would be great if the government was able to produce some kind of invoice that would tell you exactly where your money went.
That would be awesome.
That would be. No, I think it would also help build a lot of patriotism if you're able to see, okay, well, you know what, this helped this many people send their kids to school, or this helped this many nurses stay just to keep their jobs, right? Yeah. Then it would make sense. Then people would be like, okay, I can see the actual good I'm doing for my country 100%. Versus all sort of the smoke screens. And
I think that if you put it up to the people, I had an idea of, if there was one day, it's not a good idea. I'm not suggesting this at all, but I was just kind of thinking, if there was an app, a tax app, where taxpayers would go onto this app and they could allocate where they wanted their tax money to go to. Yeah. Let's say that there was someone who was really keen on better roads. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you could go, you allocate $100 to the roads. My idea was that it would probably balance out, right? Because like even though people are complaining about tax money going to terrible places, there's probably people that I disagree with who would want their taxes going there. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing.
I mean, I feel like that could work if you would have to make it so there's a limit. So say people in Toronto are really frustrated about the roads. Everyone pours their money into roads. Yeah. There needs to be a limit in each category, I'd say. At a cap. Like a cap, so this many people can donate to roads, or like once this value is reached, the roads category is cut off, and then you can donate to whatever the other, education, healthcare, whatever.
But think about this: if, let's say, the government spent $1 million on a cupcake event, okay, and they bought $1 million worth of cupcakes. Yeah. There might be people that would be fine with that.
Uh-huh.
There will be also people that are enraged. Why are we spending our money on cupcakes? We have shit roads.
Uh-huh.
Just because there are people who, I guess, validate the spending of tax dollars on cupcakes does not mean that that is still a worthy spend of tax money, because the cupcakes are nowhere near as I'm trying to make this into an analogy so I don't get
I'm bearing
wrecked,
with you. Yeah.
Okay. I can't say what I need to say, but there are people who will say, no, we need cupcakes in place. We need to have $1 million worth of cupcakes, and that's my tax money. I'll allocate it to cupcakes.
Okay. Yeah.
The cupcakes are not benefiting the country as much as that guy who allocated his money to roads.
True.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's certain things where even though there are people in the nation who would be fine that their tax money went to a certain initiative, that does not necessarily mean that is a valid spend of money, because it will not benefit the country as much as other things.
That's true. Yeah. So it's like people all of a sudden who probably shouldn't be deciding where the money went. They don't have the correct information, or all of a sudden they're given the option to choose where it's going, and they're not making the right decisions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is why the app was a dumb idea. But backtracking, I still think there needs to be more accountability in spending.
Did you hear about that thing? Like recently they came under fire because the Liberals hired, they paid millions of dollars for consulting services from a firm, and that firm told them that you need to spend less on consulting as their finding.
Really?
Yeah, like they paid a consulting firm
Jeez.
to determine where they could save money.
Yeah.
It was like a scandal like a month ago where they could save money in their budget.
Yeah.
And they said, oh yeah, spend less money on consulting.
That's crazy.
What a slap in the face that is.
That's a huge slap in the face. That dude's not a liberal. Whoever owns that company is not a liberal for sure. That's messed up. That is a big slap in the face. There's way more coverage on American politics than there are on Canadian politics.
Oh, yeah.
Even in Canada, I feel like you hear a ton about the U.S. politics.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's what pops up on my YouTube feed.
Yeah.
Right. There's some Trudeau, there's some Pierre Poilievre, there's then a bunch of stuff going on in the U.S. with Trump and this other guy who I wanted to bring up named Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
Do you know about him?
I honestly don't know much about his views.
Okay.
I heard a couple of days ago, remember, there was this explosion at Rainbow Bridge.
I did not know about that.
So that's the U.S.-Canada border.
Okay.
A car... So they've ruled out terrorism, and they've ruled out there being a car bomb or anything. But a car drove through the barriers at like 100 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And it blew up. It killed the two people inside.
This is the Niagara Falls
Yeah,
border?
the Niagara Falls. Like, I've crossed this border tons of times. Very famous. And yeah, it was a big problem, and people immediately assumed it was terrorism. Didn't end up being terrorism. But what Ramaswamy said, going back to him, he said, "This proves my point. We need a border wall between the U.S. and Canada."
Yeah. That's a big ass wall.
First of all, that's the hugest wall you can possibly build in the world. Like, it's literally the longest land border in the world.
There's no way. Yeah, I think if you wanted to do anything close to that, it could not possibly be the whole border.
Yeah, and the car came from the American side.
Yeah.
It wasn't even our side. What are you talking about? Yeah. We should have been the ones saying, if there needs to be a wall. It came from Buffalo.
That's true. That's funny. Okay, so I don't know too much about his wall. I did hear that, though. I did hear that. That is pretty funny. But besides that point, he seems very against a lot of the corruption that I feel like is very prevalent in politics and government. And he's big on kind of calling out the establishment, calling out all these types of people. I believe he is of Indian descent.
Yeah,
he's Hindu.
Obviously.
A nice, funny last name.
Yeah.
But no, I think that that's awesome. I think that it just makes me think about the comparison between U.S. and U.S. and Canadian leaders. I feel like in olden times, the leader was actually someone that everyone in the nation could look up to, kind of see the president as like a father figure in a way, someone who you, even if he was not the party you voted for, you know, would have the best intention for you.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
But politics has gotten to such a bureaucratic and kind of shady time in history that doesn't feel like that anymore. I don't really feel that Trudeau is a leader that people can get behind, and just the sense of like respecting him as a strong man in the first place. You know what I mean? Policies aside, I mean like just the guy's personality. I feel like I'm not trying to diss Trudeau, but I feel like it should be someone who is amazing in all spheres of life, not just politics.
Like, it's interesting because, looking back in history, and obviously we have a very clouded view of history. We can only remember the stuff that was saved.
Yeah.
And whoever was in power at the time wanted to save. That's really what history is.
Yeah.
But you look at clips of JFK talking, and those guys, regardless of what party you supported, everyone loved the president, right?
Yeah.
They would line the streets when they drove through town. They would applaud. They'd throw parades and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was ever as strong in Canada, just because we don't have that much of a political environment. But
Right.
in America, for sure, like there was huge support. I really don't know why there's been such a decline. But I feel it's not consolidated to North America. It's certainly everywhere in the world. You see even the recent South American elections, very divided. A lot of people are disliking their leaders.
Yeah.
Same within Europe. Like, governments are not, like, there's minority governments in basically every election.
Yeah.
And so I have no idea why. It really baffles me.
It's tough. It's tough. But yeah, you're right. JFK is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Because he was Democrat, I believe.
Yeah.
But everyone in the country, I feel, most of the people in the country loved him as a president.
Yeah, you know what? I think to blame are the leaders. I think they diss each other too much.
Fair.
Beforehand, if you even look at the election between John McCain and Barack Obama in early 2008, McCain there was this one point where someone asked a really racist question, came up, and McCain, during the debate, stopped and said, you know what? Both of us would be great presidents.
Yeah.
That there is never that respect between candidates anymore.
True.
Right? Where both candidates can admit, we see things a different way, but we both are good people who want to do what's best for the country.
Yeah.
That respect just vanished over the course of 10 years. Like, I'd say as recent as 2010, the two candidates against each other, they would not be making personal attacks nearly as frequently as they are today. They wouldn't be. It's now less focused on policy and more focused on dredging up dirt.
Yeah.
And I think social media is also to blame.
It's got to be because of social media.
It's got to be because that's what gets the soundbite.
Yeah.
It's finding some really bad stories about people, as well as it's easier to find bad stories now that everyone always has a mic in their face.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's completely true right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a story I heard. It's like people aren't afraid to break the rules anymore in that sense of just respecting the person across the aisle. There was a story I heard the other day of Winston Churchill in World War II. And there was something in England at the time, don't completely quote me on this, but there's something in England at the time known as gentlemanly conduct in war.
Okay.
And the British believed that anything shy of gentlemanly conduct would be considered a loss in war.
Wow.
So if there was these certain basically rules to war, like guidelines as to what is immoral and what is immoral, what's allowed and what's not allowed for the British Army to do in war. And when Winston Churchill came in, once again, very unsettling time with the Nazis, there was a complete shift in the sense where he said, we're going to do whatever it takes to win because we're up against the biggest bad guys that history's ever seen.
Yeah.
Fuck gentlemanly conduct. We have to win. We have to do our country proud, whatever it takes. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So that at that moment, and I understand the argument from both sides, but that is just a point, whether it's in World War II or in politics today, where when you lose that gentlemanly conduct, people can get to such a place where when you see winning as the utmost important outcome, despite the means of getting there, I think that's when things start to really crumble and fall apart.
Yeah.
Because you go to really petty extremes like digging up dirt on people.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that the Trudeau blackface came out right at the time of election.
Yeah.
And I'm not even supporting Trudeau. I'm not supporting that thing. But it's ridiculous that they use that as a weapon to attack the guy right before an election. It's so obvious.
I think it was so bad though what he did. Like, come on, like, dude, like, It was in maybe like the 90s or something.
Right.
Like, you know better than that. It was pretty bad. But yeah, saving it
and using it as a weapon
is also, it just speaks to the nature of politics these days.
Yeah.
That it's about dredging up dirt. Yeah, I think also, I feel like the quality of our leaders has gone down big time.
How come?
I feel like they're less good at speaking, I'd say, for starters. Like, there are a few exceptions here today where you see a guy who's a really good debater.
Yeah.
But if you look at their ability to deliver speeches that are really moving, really powerful, that the whole country can get behind,
Yeah.
it's gone down, I'd say. And I think that's because the quality of people running, they're not people who are sort of, how do I phrase this? I don't know. They're not people who are really inspiring. They're mainly people who had success in life, and they decided, oh, you know what, I want to do politics now as well, because you can be even more success. They kind of look at it as an ambition rather than a part of their civic duty or something that they want to step up and do.
Right.
So it's like, for them, it's like a prize they want to hold. Like, I want to win the election. I want to go down in history as a guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's affected. It's more about the winning and less about winning the heart of the country.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help also when you have media that's completely polarized as well.
Completely.
Back in the day, I would like to think that everyone was, this comes back to the patriotism that we were talking about.
Yeah.
The lack of patriotism because you just hate a president or a prime minister so much ruins everything. I think that at the time, maybe when JFK was around, once again, I don't know, this is just intuition. The reporting on JFK would be relatively positive because everyone was pro-America. Everyone was more patriotic then. And you can get behind the leader of your country, not because you necessarily like the leader, just because you love your country so much. So at least you can do whatever it takes to at least make him look a little better than you might think he actually is. When now the media is so keen on tearing certain leaders down, that doesn't help the country be united at all.
This is a really good point. Yeah. The media, it wants to see people fail. Yeah. And it is very clear. Like, every single media organization in the world, it has some kind of agenda, right? And they don't even, they used to try and hide it. Now they're shameless about it. Yeah. Now they will say, we need this to happen in order to win the election. Like, where's the we coming from? It's like, no, it's you. It's whoever's running. It's like, but yeah, they want to see people fail. But what they're forgetting is that by wanting to see people fail, they're also wanting to see their country fail in a way. Like, that's the collateral damage as a result of their leader failing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm one of these people who really thinks the media is corrupt, whether it's conservative or liberal. I think they're both paid by the same people. It's fucking. There's a
kingpin.
Yeah, there has to be, man, because it's division is a very easy way to conquer a society.
Ooh.
It's very easy. Yeah. So once again, we don't need to go too deep into like the financial conspiracies of everything. But I think that I just feel like people are so much more polarized looking at the screen and watching the news than they are in real life. Like, when I talk to people in real life who we probably hold the more polarized views in our own head. Like, because the news, once again, media is so polarizing. You'll have one side of the story. You'll have information that is, okay, you'll have the story as a whole. One side takes this part of the story. The other side takes the other part of the story. They're talking about the same event, but they're telling different information.
Okay, yeah.
And this makes people become extreme in their own mind. We're creating a generation of extremists with the news that we have today.
Yeah.
And I think when you actually sit down and have a conversation with somebody that is on the opposing side, you realize that you guys are actually in agreement on 90% of things.
Absolutely.
Not on 10% of things, which is what they try to make it seem like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they make it seem like the world revolves around a few select topics that they know people have like really vested interests in, and they really blow them out of proportion about how significant these problems are.
Yeah.
Like, and they make it all they talk about 24 hours a day. It's all you hear. And there's no question that leads to frustration in people. That puts people at each other's throats. And I think it's really dirty to be profiting off it, to be honest.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Anyways, it's been a good conversation.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
I think we covered some really good ground. Yeah,
Absolutely. Started with movies.
Yeah.
Went on to some F1, some Lap 'em Fast.
Yeah.
Hit up the account. Talked about some science, health, business, and then media and politics.
Yeah. It's crazy the way a conversation can just keep changing and evolving. It is beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Carter.
Do you have any final thoughts for the people at home?
Well, I guess happy holidays are coming up soon.
Yeah.
And subscribe to Lap 'em Fast. Thanks for watching. Yeah.
We'll leave a link to the channel for Lap 'em Fast in the description. Go subscribe for the best bets in the F1 space. Ladies and gentlemen, that's VoV Podcast every Sunday. Like the interview. It was awesome. My boy Aden here. And follow the Instagram, TikTok, @VoicesOfVic. Listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Peace out.